Alright, give me just a second to drop the link in the chat so everyone has it, and we will go over some tickers. Let me put it over here as well. Dropped it in ethical trading. Over in bullish rate as well. Alright. Just a second to pull up these tickers people were asking about. I have it ready. I'll start with Tesla while I'm waiting on these others. Let's see. So Tesla has earnings next week, right? We all know that. If you've been following the live streams, let me see if the video looks like it might be chopping, so let me update the bandwidth real quick. Here we go. Is that better? Cool. Alright, so like I've been saying, and like we've been watching on Tesla for weeks now, right? Like, yeah, I'm bullish long term on Tesla, but I absolutely sell covered calls against my shares. Time being, because chart setup is still just overall in a downtrend until we break a higher high. So as of right now, what we're looking for, if we look over the weekly and monthly. Sorry for all the lines, we trade multiple time frames here. You've got a high, right? The all-time high, followed by this low, followed by this lower high, followed by what? Right, so we haven't actually established a new high higher than this. These highs over here are still lower than this previous higher or lower high. Technically, this is still a downtrend, even though we're above that trend line. The reason that's important is because what you see here with last earnings, for instance, is that we peaked and we broke above it. People screamed Tesla to 300, and with earnings, it rejected hard back underneath that trend line. And then you can see it's actually forming a lower high potential here off the recent rejection. So watching this set up closely from a larger time frame, as of right now, I'm still selling covered calls. I did end up closing out today my last 5 October 18th were the 230 covered calls. So that batch I sold on September 19th for about $2,500 each, and today I closed those out for $20 each. So net profit on those 5 contracts was $12,400. That buys a lot more Tesla shares. That's how you add to your longer term holdings, and you hedge your position accordingly. So like I've warned people multiple times on Tesla, the setup here, when you watch the flows, you can actually see that the larger funds and whales, they do exactly what I did in that situation, except on a much larger scale because they have a lot more money than I do. From that standpoint, they make a lot of their money not from the actual buying and selling of shares like a lot of people think they do. Rather, they make a lot of their money from the premiums. So if you actually follow that approach, and no, not everyone has that many shares, but keep that in mind because it helped me to understand a bit more of what's going on with the day-to-day options movement that's going on. And it helps you make better decisions on whether you should buy calls or puts and whatnot on a ticker, specifically Tesla. So you haven't seen me swinging or trading calls really, or puts on Tesla for the most part. I did enter some more swing puts just because the setup made sense recently, and those are up, but ultimately the premiums are out of whack right now from the buyer side, so I haven't been trading that side. You can see I still have these 2 ranges that I like to sell covered calls within. So while we're here, and I'll actually show you this bear flag consolidation we've got going on here yet again on Tesla. You can see here, this is a bear flag. Draw it, so it's super clear. Oops. Second. Alright, so yeah, let me make that line bigger for the flag. Oh, it's super obvious and clear. That's your flagpole, right? And then here, oh, no. I want it to snap. It's going to try to snap because I've got the magnet mode set, but basically you've got this flag here. Okay, analyzer confirmed. Thanks, dude. So even here, like if this pushes up and tests that 230 range again, it's still a very valid bear flag, so you need to keep a close eye. It's spotty. Don't know why it's spotty. How about now? Spotty, no? Not getting enough streaming. Let me check real quick. Let's fix this before we carry on. Close out this other thing. I know it's not my internet speed because my internet speed is 2 gigabytes, so hold on 2 seconds, I'll be right back. Alright. Oh, where it went. Here we go. Still laggy. Let me close out some of these other aspects I got going on here. I think the issue is specifically with this graphics card and this desktop that is way old and needs to be updated. Also, it mines some crypto at some point in its life, so that's probably not helping its situation either. Check real quick, because I don't want y'all to not be able to hear. So far, so good? Okay, alright, I'll just roll with it then. Analyzer says we're good, we're gonna keep on cranking. So, if it gets spotty or something, check the playback speed down at the bottom and confirm that, or not playback speed, sorry. Playback quality. Can't talk, been too many meetings today. Check the playback quality, make sure it's on 1080p or higher, that way you can actually see the resolution and everything clear. As for the audio, that probably is straightened out now. But let's jump back into Tesla. So bear flag, right? Also, you look here, aside from that bear flag, Tesla is at risk here of breaking this trend line. We already broke this trend line that we've been uptrend since August. That one broke. We're in this longer term uptrend right here since April, and this thing's at risk of breaking, which is always interesting, right? So just like the robotaxi event and several other events end up being right at a pivotal point for Tesla, notice how we're getting to a pivotal point for Tesla right as we approach earnings. Meanwhile, over on Facebook, you have tons of retail traders still yelling buy the dip on Tesla and get your calls in, buy your shares before earnings, trust me bro, all that fun stuff, right? Retail doesn't learn, so trade smart and be smart about the setup. Make sure that you're actually trading according to every aspect that's on the chart, and also understanding how the larger players are actually doing their trading. So let me jump over real quick. What other ticker did we need to look at specifically here? I'll look at Palantir real quick because a few of y'all are like really confused on why I alerted more calls, and I want to make sure we cover that. So overall, Palantir, right? Very much still in this same bullish uptrend that we've been in. Okay, so same thing as whenever we broke up from the bull flag earlier on and then moved higher. Broke up from bull flag early on, moved higher, then got in this bull flag right here, consolidated, had that pullback, consolidated, moved higher. Same thing. We're still in the same type of setup, still very much in a consistent uptrend with this breakout from this bullish megaphone pattern that you have here. So right now what I would like to see on Palantir is to hold this range above 41.55. You can see that that support's been a strong support. If it dips and wicks below it and pops back above it, that's fine. That's okay. We can deal with that. I'm not trading puts here just because it hasn't made sense based off the premiums, based off of confluence of support levels here. It's dangerous if I was to try to trade puts here. So I have not fully sold covered calls against all of my Palantir shares yet. I know I've told some of y'all that recently, and Joe, I forget which of the tickers we were talking about. Maybe it's SoFi that we're talking about selling covered calls against, but basically it has to be enough premium for me to justify selling covered calls to take the risk of my shares being assigned. Facebook looking at a post to say, yeah, see, I'm telling you, like I could try to comment on there and then I get drugged by all the retail masses if I say anything negative or even hesitant about Tesla. But y'all know I'm bullish long term on Tesla. I have a ridiculous amount of shares now, and I'll probably add. Currently at 923, and I'm debating whether or not I'm going to be able to make it over 1,000 shares for the end of the year. I don't know if I want to buy shares at this point. I usually buy below a lower threshold price for shares, but I'm debating using some of the premium from the calls to continue to accumulate long-term shares and then keep selling covered calls, rinse and repeat. So it'd be really cool to break that 1K mark. Sorry, you totally threw that at me and it was like a squirrel moment, so I'm gonna circle back to Palantir. So, like, yeah, watching this right now, I saw a lot of very bullish flows over on Unusual Whales today. For swing calls, the whales clearly are still expecting more bullish momentum. So I went ahead and I started lightly phasing into some December 65 calls. Why did I go with that? I went with that because if you look at the current setup, that's actually a continuation for the range. So the range right now is all based on what our previous highs were. That's why a lot of people have been targeting that 45 range and that 42 range, because that was the measured move for that breakout. But that was for the previous breakout. So if we consolidate here and form a new pattern and break out of that, you're looking at another larger setup. So for instance, if you were to look at the weekly right now and consider your bull flag on the weekly here, I'm going to delete this old one just so it's not confusing. Get out of the way, out of the way. Almost completed that move, so I'll leave it there, but I'm going to move it over so that it's not in the way so much. Yeah, you've got the bull flag here on the weekly as well as the daily. And remind me, we need to look at crypto here in a second, because why is that Robinhood group like that? People get super negative. Dude, that's all the retail groups. It's like that on stock options traders, Robinhood retail, like any of the retail trading groups are like that, where basically everyone has a bullish bias. And I see it because I used to be like that whenever I learned, earlier on trading, and then I decided I was gonna have a bias and I'd trade both directions or whatever the setup is. So unfortunately, most retail masses only know up. And also, you've got the situation where stocks like NVDA and others the last 18 months have done nothing but basically move to the upside. So a lot of traders are only used to trading that because they've got into trading and into the market over the last 12 to 18 months. And they go to groups like that once they're new to try to learn. But that's what ends up happening until all of a sudden they experience a pullback or where things trade flat and they don't really understand why their call options aren't going up, even if the stock is trading flat. The Greeks are very important when it comes to stock options, which several of you have seen that this week on some of those other options you traded that have different strikes and expirations. But you got that compounded by the Fed interest rates. So if they start cutting rates more, that's actually going to negatively impact swing call options. So you want to be really careful and look at each ticker and each option independently. That being said, Palantir, definitely upside movement. I'll map it out and do it separately to show the price target range for the next upside move, just so y'all have it. But like basically, even if you were to look at the current bull flag, Yeah, I commented on that post, dude. With a very unbiased comment. I told them I'd sell them my covered calls happily if they want to buy them. So, if they want to buy my spike covered calls, they can buy them. I'm not going to sell them right now while they're beat down, but the next time we get a big green pop, especially heading into earnings, you better believe I'm going to sell more covered calls against Tesla shares, and I will happily sell them to the people in that group. Sorry, I keep getting sidetracked, but yeah, keep bringing the comments. That's good stuff. Right here, you're looking into a poll is about 16%, so remember I stay conservative on that. From a breakout standpoint, conservative, right? So breakout standpoint, you can see here that minimally starts to put us up in this 50s range. Keep in mind that those 65 calls have plenty of time on them, right? As well as you don't have to, with an option like that, they don't have to go in the money to make money. So they'll be highly profitable even with this move. Those Palantir calls that we've been in since like last December are probably a pretty good example of that. You could have taken significant gains on those multiple times. That being said, they ended up running more and more, which we trimmed to cover cost basis on those. But those things hit, what was it? Like 822%, right? So like, okay, they just now went in the money, but they were over 600% before they went in the Alright, y'all still with me? Y'all hear me again? Sorry. My German Shepherd decided he wanted to walk and trip over the mic cable. So he yanked the mic cable completely out of the mic that's on the desk. Probably shouldn't have it run across to the other. So, okay. Cool. The stream looks like it's being clear too. I see a higher signal strength, so I'm gonna keep rolling. Let's see. Did he post that? Deej just gonna give that dude a hard time. So here, Deej, since you're right there, I'm gonna go ahead and jump over to SMCI real quick. I know several people are asking about that. Then I'll go back to some of the key tickers we're on. So SMCI, same crap we've seen for months, right? Even though it's a different share price post split, it's the same crap. So you've got this bear flag, consolidation, breakdown with like little breakouts to the upside in between. It's the same thing is going on right now with SMCI, where it's bear flagging yet again and also rising wedge going on here. So I would watch. I really wanted to see SMCI actually tag that 51.35 gap fill before breaking more to the downside, but it looks like it's not going to. We'll see what happens in the coming days. There was inverse head and shoulders here, but I got whacked out. So several of the semiconductors are showing weakness, even though you've got NVIDIA pumping hard. Definitely want to keep a close eye on some of those. I haven't traded options on this, although tomorrow's Friday. So this might be a good one, depending on where it's at, to jump into your YOLO gambling degen self puts. I'll see where it's at in levels, because if it trades flat, those premiums just get wrecked. So I just really don't want to risk getting trapped in some options that are going to get wrecked. But real quick, let me jump over to NVDA. So yeah, we got this awesome movement to the upside going on here, right to our previous high, right, which is where we rejected. I need to sell more covered calls before we reject back below, because I forgot today and got sidetracked with some work stuff. So I really want to sell those other covered calls between 135 and 140. I don't want to wait till it pulls back more, so I need to sell those off. If NVIDIA can get some bullish momentum to keep carrying this upside movement, then the measured move that you see here on my chart actually is in that 175 range, which there was actually some bullish calls for the 170 strike for next year up there. Yeah, I got AMD for you too, Deesh. That being said, I want to be careful on NVIDIA for the reasons that I mentioned in the chat. I guess it was yesterday, the day before, but you saw the headlines about the potential restrictions being put in place with NVIDIA and AMD and chips going to the basically Saudi Arabia and a few other countries in the Middle East. It's one of those things that I'm not going to make a trading decision based on it. However, I will take it into consideration to be careful about how I'm trading. So that's what I would recommend based on that. We also don't know how this election is going to turn out and what the implications are going to be from a chips standpoint and tariffs and taxes and everything else, and how hard or how bad it is for certain companies to ship in or out to other countries. So take that with a grain of salt or for what it is and keep that in mind. Yeah, those people always say those extreme prices for NVDA and Tesla. It's crazy. I've been hearing Tesla to 300 for the last, 2 years? Ever since we hit 299, they're like, oh, we're going over it. But look, still rejecting. So that's great. Basically, when that hype is happening like that, that's a great time to sell covered calls. So, at some point you kind of start to learn not to trade that way or think that way. Unfortunately, some people just don't learn. They just like to donate their money to option sellers, which we'll happily accept. But let me jump over real quick to QQQ. Oh, I'm sorry, no, we're going to do AMD first for Dej. Plus, we're in it. So, here's my thing on AMD, right? Same thing I just said about the chips and everything, keeping that in consideration, right? So, I'm understanding the risk as I'm entering the longer term swing call trade that I'm currently in for it. What I would like to see on AMD is for it to hold this retest here. And if it can hold this retest, it should bounce and move up into that range where we have a gap that's at 174.33 or 174.53. And then that 175 plus range is where that move should put us, which is the same supply zone that we hit previously. So I very lightly started easing into some calls for January. Again, y'all know the strike on those. They don't have to go in the money to make money. Keep that in mind. You can actually look at the historicals on those if you want to get a kind of general ballpark of what you can expect them to move to. But yeah, keep an eye on it. I'm in some AMD calls for next week too, just as a pure lotto trade at this point. Just because I liked how it's holding that level and I want to see what happens. They may fail because that is a bear flag, but again, I'm in a very small position on that as a pure lotto trade. It wouldn't surprise me to see a breakdown here to test this trend line, which you can see is the target I had. So I may day trade AMD puts tomorrow if the setup presents itself. I am going to be at the dealership getting my wife's car recall stuff done, but I'm going to take my extra monitor and everything, so I'll trade at the dealership. This Volkswagen dealership's got a pretty sweet setup, but anyways, what other tickers are we currently in that I need to pull? So DraftKings. Yeah, we alerted calls on DraftKings today. For one, I saw it in the flows, so that was one of those tickers. I wasn't actively monitoring the chart setup itself. I had traded it in the past, so I had some of it charted already, but I saw it pop up in my flows on my screener. Some bullish call momentum, and now I looked at the chart and I was like, yeah, I'm in on that. So you got a breakout of a downtrend, right? And then we came back, we retested that downtrend, and then we consolidated. We retested again here, and then you can see we've got confluence with the retest of that trend line as well as the support at 36.81. So while there is a bear flag here, I went ahead and got in a very light position for DraftKings swing calls, because if this thing pops off right here, you can see that that's a level that it can come off of strong. And somebody over on the well flow knows something, it seems. So, I mean, for me, the setup makes sense. It's a retest on a breakout, back test, upside movement. So, that made sense. It was a cheap option trade, so it was good enough to go with. MBiz. So, this one is a very interesting one that I've been watching MBiz for a long time because of multiple things on Ortex for short data as well as options flows. So, they've got an earnings forecast I think they released, but then also there was some really weird options movement going on with that. Just a second. Check this other thing. You got a breakout of a downtrend. We did some retesting, right? Potential inverse head and shoulder setup going here. Again, this is like a very weird, different situation. I'm not necessarily trading this because of the technicals alone or anything like that. They also happen to have a conference call for shareholders set up tomorrow. I forget what time it's at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So I saw in the flows on my screener, and I shared it over in several of the channels, some very, very interesting movement for call options for MVIS, both for 1018 expirations for the $1.50 as well as further out. So it was enough that I was going to risk a little bit of money on it and go ahead and jump in as well and see kind of what happens. It's a gamble, pure lotto trade. We'll see what happens with that. HIMS. I only trade this thing because of freaking analyzer. It's not a ticker I'd even normally touch, but I saw some flows pop up over on Unusual Wells for it, and then I saw the chart setup as well. Let me check something. So yeah, I saw the put premiums over on Unusual Wells, some large orders, and I saw where it rejected here. So I went ahead and jumped in some just as a gamble. I think we did the 21 strike. They gave us 10% gains initially, but I'm just riding them out. There's a gap fill sitting right down there at 1869. So if it breaks down hard like it did here in those fields, that'd be fantastic. If it doesn't work out, that's fine too. It was a lotto trade, and I'll take it. Overall, though, that's the setup we have there on HIMS. Let's see. SoFi. Yeah, you got it. I'm still swinging some of my calls on SoFi. I don't even care. The cost basis has been covered. I'll ride it out. So if you look at the weekly on this thing, you can see we're starting to potentially reject at that same range that we did previously. So I'm not loving that. Also, we left this gap right here that probably will get filled at some point. I'm going to go ahead and mark that. For the time being, though, SoFi's trying to hold this upper range. Put this here so we have it. If it can hold that breakout and carry more to the upside, that's great. It already hit all 4 of our price targets, right, from that inverse head and shoulder setup that we traded. So I'm watching this. I want to see if it can push higher or if it breaks down here. I might go ahead and sell my shares on this one if we do lose the support range, because I think we're up like 30%. I might sell covered calls on it, actually. I'll have to look. I know Joe was asking too. I'll have to see if it's worth the risk to do it. I think when we looked, it actually did make sense. I could sell like the $11 calls for several months out and net pretty solid premium on it, and still, if I got assigned, if it did break out further, then I'd still net even bigger gains. So I might go ahead and just sell covered calls on it. One other that's been trading similar setup, Sound. So this one, I don't know if anyone knows the NVDA relationship here, but Sound is a solid setup right here. So you look at it on the daily, got a breakout of this downtrend, right? And it was a pretty solid breakout. So right now it's got a little bit of consolidation going on. The potential bull flag. Let me look at it on the 1 hour. Yeah, it is bull flag. Alright, so what I want to see is hold of this support at 512. And ideally we consolidate here and then we break out more to the upside. The measured move on it would put it somewhere in the, let's see, 10 to 15% range. Oh look, it just happens to align with the price target 5. So I'll be watching that. Those $5 calls that we entered on that crap went insane. They actually tagged what they hit. Where is it? I've got it right here. Sound. Where's sound? There it is. 688%. I think they actually went a little bit higher. I just haven't updated that on the sheet yet. So watching that, cost basis covered, I'll write it out. But this one might be a good one for looking for a re-entry on for a longer term trade, just because their work with NVIDIA I think will be good around AI platform. See any other specific tickers? Let me check real quick. Let me go jump over to crypto real quick. So I absolutely love this setup. Those of you that are into crypto, like, this is our jam, right? So let's look at this part, and I'll do a bit of a higher level overview for this part because this might be a good segment to actually break out and send people separately, because a lot of people are trying to wrap their head around what's going on with crypto right now. So Bitcoin, right? This is a massive cup and handle setup on Bitcoin on the weekly time frame. So this has weight behind it, okay? This makes a lot of sense and it aligns well with the halving cycle as well. So this, for me, from a long-term person that has been in crypto since 2017, like, this is freaking awesome, and this is what we want to see. This is the same type of setup and movement that we saw way back over here in this range, that all you wish you would have bought some crypto, right? You got to be patient with it. So I'm watching this setup here. As crazy as it sounds, the measured move for that bull flag breakout is in like the 120k range. So it definitely would expect some psychological sell-off at like the 100k level, where there's probably tons of orders. I could pull it up over on one of the actual crypto exchanges and show you like how big the block orders are that are sitting out there. But overall, this setup here is very bullish from a longer term time frame. Several of you know my significant crypto holdings, and I'll keep adding to those. I'll trade crypto leverage futures short and long, but A, B, and B. Y'all look at it. I'm watching this closely. What we want to see here is a breakout of this bull flag with buying volume and momentum behind it, right? We don't want to see like a little weak wick above that pushes to a new high. We want to see a breakout above with strong buying volume, which it's interesting to me that this kind of just happens to align with the time frame that the election's happening here in a few weeks. I'm not going to get into politics. I know that one of the politicians is a big proponent for crypto. The other doesn't really care one way or the other, is my understanding. But that being said, there's a lot of speculation going on about how the market reacts to each of those people being elected. So I think right now that a lot of people are saying if Trump gets elected, people are going to pull money out of the market because of the uncertainty, especially Democrats. I don't care. We're going to trade and make money either way. That being said, let's say that people did pull their money out of stocks and out of the market. Where are they going to park it? Probably in crypto. So keep that in mind. Keep watching the setup. Y'all know I'm going to keep watching it closely because I've got a lot online with it. But same thing, if you look over here, like Bitcoin is kind of your staple, right? Ethereum's got a little bit different setup going on. It's not quite as bullish, which Ethereum, in my opinion, when they went proof of stake from proof of work, I killed the hype around Ethereum for the most part. I still am a believer in the technology and like the blockchain, a lot of the fundamental under projects that we have as spin-offs from Ethereum, but not a big fan of the setup here for Ethereum. Just like with stocks, when it comes to crypto, you have to look at each project independently. So I'm in quite a few projects as a longer term for crypto. I'm also overall, like, Bitcoin's a solid one. Some of y'all have seen all the ones I'm in. Some of the ones I really like right now is like Sol, which is one of the ones that I probably did freaking fantastic from an overall entry after the fact, after missing the initial run type standpoint. I actually bought more Sol in January 2023. So my average is like hella low, and then it ripped again, and we have a beautiful bull flag right here, right? So I actually alerted right recently, last couple of days. It's a good range to buy Sol in. If it breaks down that, you might consider stop lossing or something in this range, but for me, Solana, I'm looking for the breakout to the upside to at least that 250 level. It's probably going to go higher, but I'm already up over 1,000% on my position as is, and I'm not selling it. I'm gonna keep on riding it. Analyzer, you're asking about BitX. So here's my take, dude. Whenever it comes to any of the crypto related ETFs, I don't mess with them. I was never a big fan of them anyways, because they really were only put into place so that the government could try to get more control and regulation over crypto, because they failed miserably trying to put regulations on it in other ways. So a lot of the crypto ETFs actually kind of go against the fundamental idea of why a lot of people like crypto and the whole point of making crypto to begin with. I'm not saying you can't make gains on it by trading these ETFs and everything, but I mean, look at the chart as compared to the movement you've seen on Bitcoin. There's not really a correlation with that, even though it's the Bitcoin strategy ETF. So I don't touch these. I don't mess with them. For me, they just don't make sense from an asset standpoint. I'd rather trade actual crypto itself or leverage futures on crypto. The options premiums are always out of whack on all these crypto ETFs, so it's just not even worth it to mess with them. You're better off if you really want to trade them, going over and trading like actual crypto tickers. So like a lot of y'all have seen my list of crypto tickers, and I can share it in the chat again, but you got like Coinbase, Riot, Mara, Bit Digital, BKKT, Bitfarms, SOS, HUT, MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is awesome. It's actually right now is a good time if you're wanting to get back into MicroStrategy. That retest when it comes back from that breakout, that's going to be a good spot. I'm watching it closely because I want to enter like some 250 strike, 300 strike calls on MicroStrategy, and be prepared when you look at them. Don't get sticker shock. They're expensive as hell because the volatility and because the price of the ticker. So the same thing going on with coin. You've got this setup of the breakout of the downtrend. We'd like to see it retake and push to the upside. But keep in mind that with all the crypto tickers, they make their money different ways. So coin makes their money obviously based off a brokerage and exchange type approach. Mara and Riot are both miners, so they get their money from mining Bitcoin and other crypto assets. MicroStrategy basically has attained their holdings because they buy and hold large amounts of Bitcoin. So that's where a lot of their hype comes from. So keep an eye on those. Let me check real quick. ABNB. Oh, I do have it charted. Analyzer. There you go, dude. Like, I don't remember if I did this one previously for you or not. So yeah, like it's it broke down from that uptrend previously. That didn't do what it was supposed to do. But you can see it broke down from that uptrend, and see how when it broke down hard. It caught support here at this demand zone, which is good. It's trying to rehold this support. If it can hold that support, you'd probably be good to trade. You can see here, this is a pretty good range to trade on up into. I might be a little bit safer with it and trim any of my gains here. I'm about to wrap it up here in a second. We're about to go to the park with the family, but yeah, I mean, you might trade Airbnb here. I'd just be careful. There's a lot of hit or miss stuff going on right now with real estate and rental properties. So, cool. I'm gonna go to the park with the kids and the family. I'm gonna go ahead and call the YouTube at this point. But if there's any tickers y'all want me to look at tomorrow, let me know. Like I said, I'll be at the Volkswagen dealership getting the recall stuff done on her Atlas. So I'll just be doing that and working.